How is it going? Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Mystery Unsolved. You know who I am. You know why you're here. Tonight's episode, an episode I could have sworn I've already done. It is on a topic of disappearance, and I could have sworn I did an episode on this person, but apparently I did not. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mystery Unsolved, the disappearance of Louie LaPrince. Who was Louie LaPrince? Why am I doing an episode on him? He disappeared. But why was he important? Therein lies the tale. BuzzFeed Unsolved did an episode on him, and it's very intriguing. It's not even just the disappearance that's the big wow factor here. It's also who he was. So without further ado, Mystery Unsolved, Louie LaPrince. Louie LaPrince was a French artist, cinematographer, and the inventor of the early motion picture camera. Yes, that's right. You heard that right. Not Thomas Edison. This guy. Which just goes to prove that Thomas Edison was a goddamn fraud. All right. He was also the director of the Roundhay Garden Sense. He was possibly the first person to shoot a moving picture sequence using a single lens camera and strip of paper film. He has been credited as the father of cinematography, but due to his disappearance in 1890, his work did not influence the commercial development of cinema. Doesn't that suck? So this man, he disappeared on September 16th, 1890 at the age of 49. So how different things could have been if we were sitting here talking about Louie LaPrince as the father of cinematography and the man that we all know created the first motion picture film, but instead we're sitting here talking about him as still that, but unfortunately not as the creator that we know behind cinema, but as a man who just disappeared. In October of 1888, LaPrince filmed moving picture sequences of family members in Leeds. In the 1888 short films, Roundhay Garden Scene, an accordion player, showing his son Adolphe playing the accordion using his singular lens camera and Eastman's paper negative film. In the next 18 months, he would also make the short film Traffic Crossing Leeds Bridge. His work appears to precede the inventions of his contemporaries, such as Frieze Greene and Donisthorpe, as well as being years ahead of the Lumiere brothers and Dixon, who did the moving image work for Thomas Edison. You're probably going to hear me refer to Thomas Edison a lot, and every time that he does, I'm just going to do a quick little thing because Edison was a fraud. And yes, I'm totally stealing that from Family Guy, but they said he was a dick, but I'm just going to call him a fraud for the sake of keeping this PG, even though I don't have to. LaPrince disappeared on September 16, 1890. Numerous conspiracy theories emerged about his disappearance, including murder, disappearance in order to start a new life, and suicide. However, no conclusive evidence was found for any of these theories. In 1890, Edison's workers began experimenting with celluloid film to capture moving images. The first public results of these experiments were shown in May of 1891. LaPrince's widow and son Adolphe were keen to advance Louis's career as inventor of the cinematography. In 1898, Adolphe appeared as a witness for defense in a court case brought by Thomas Edison, because Edison was a fraud, against American Mutoscope Company, in which Edison claimed to be the first and sole inventor of cinematography, and thus entitled to royalties for the use of the process. Films shot with cameras built according to LaPrince's patent were presented. Eventually, the court ruled in Edison's favor. However, A year later, that ruling was overturned, but Edison reissued his patents and succeeded in controlling the U.S. film industry for many years. 7 years after his disappearance, LaPrince was declared dead on September 16, 1897. So before we get into his disappearance, let's just talk about Thomas Edison. Edison was a fraud, and he was also a dick. Edison, in my opinion, let's go back for a second. But Edison reissued patents and succeeded in controlling the U.S. film industry for many years. So even though it was proven a year later that Edison was not the father of cinema in the creation of the first moving film, so what does he do? He's like, well, the guy that created the first moving film technically isn't here. He disappeared off the face of the earth. We don't know what happened to him. So I'm just going to reissue my patents and I'm going to get credit for it. Which is probably one of the most dick moves you could possibly do. Yeah, I'm sorry, but it is. There's no sugarcoating that. Can you hear that? That's my AC. It drips and it makes that fucking sound. I love it. But yeah, Edison has pretty much found a loophole here. And okay, so Edison found a loophole. Is he wrong for this? Yes. I absolutely think he is. In September 1890, the prince was preparing for a trip to the United States, supposedly to publicly premiere his work and join his wife and children. Before his journey, he decided to return to France to visit his brother in Dijon. Then, on September 16th, he took a train to Paris, but having taken a later train than planned, his friends in Paris discovered that he was not on board. He was never seen again by his family or friends, nor was the luggage he was traveling with ever found. The last person to ever see the prince at the Dijon station was his brother. The French police, Scotland Yard, and the family undertook exhaustive searches but never found him. The prince was officially declared dead in 1897. A number of mostly unsubstantiated theories have been proposed. So, yeah, his disappearance is pretty much how you would expect any disappearance to go. Like, see him once, one moment we see him, dude's completely gone in the next. So, what happened to him? That's what we're about to find out. We have a lot of conspiracy theories here. I have not read over this yet, so I'm reading this for the first time along with you. So, we're gonna say Patton Wars assassination, Equity 6928. Christopher Rollins pursues the assassination theory along with other theories and discusses that the LaPrince family's suspicions of Edison over patents, the Equity 6928, in his 1990 book and the documentary The Missing Reel. Rollins claims that at the time he vanished, LaPrince was about to patent his 1889 projector in the UK and then leave Europe for his scheduled New York official expedition. His widow assumed foul play, though no concrete evidence has ever emerged, and Rollins prefers the suicide theory. Why did you just tell us that? Why did you just tell us that? Oh, he pursued the assassination theory, but in conclusion, he came to the conclusion of the suicide theory. Okay. In 1898, the prince's elder son Adolphe, who had assisted his father in many of his experiments, was called as a witness for the American Multoscope Company as the litigation with Edison, Equity 6928. Equity 6928 is apparently the patent, or it's the case. By citing LaPrince's achievements, Multoscope hoped to annul Edison's subsequent claims to have invented the moving picture camera. LaPrince's widow Lizzie and Adolphe hoped that this would gain recognition for LaPrince's achievement, but when the case went against Multoscope, their hopes were dashed. 3 years later, 28-year-old Adolphe was found dead on Fire Island near New York, having died by suicide by shooting himself through the forehead. So, yeah, the son committed suicide on Fire Island, which is a gay island. No judgment, it really is. Um, that's pretty crazy. So, yeah, so apparently they don't actually say it, but he's saying it was suicide. If the son committed suicide years later, then perhaps Louis himself committed suicide. But then again, where would he have done it? Where would he have gone? Why didn't he just kill himself in his hometown? Did he maybe he just didn't want to be shamed? Disappearance ordered by the family. In 1966, Jacques Deslantis proposed a theory claiming that Le Prince voluntarily disappeared due to financial reasons and familial conveniences. Journalist Leo Savage quotes known sh- a note shown to him by Pierre Grass, director of the Dijon Municipal Library in 1977, claiming that Le Prince died in Chicago in 1898, having moved there at the family's request because he was homosexual, but rejects that assertion. It is extremely likely that this wasn't at all true, as there is no evidence to suggest that Le Prince was gay. Okay, so what's ironic here is that I just mentioned that Fire Island, where his son committed suicide, was is now known as like a place where gay people live. And Louis himself apparently came up with this theory. Apparently, somebody came up with this theory that Louis Le Prince himself was gay. I absolutely do not believe this theory. Let's just get this theory out of the way. Back then, I have no idea what the views on were. I have no idea what the views are were for homosexuality in the 1890s. No clue. For them to come up with it like almost 100 years later is like where are you getting this information? Why would that like? I get the why. Obviously, like I said, who knows what homosexuality looked like back in the 1890s? Probably extremely frowned upon, I would imagine. But again, what evidence do you have to support any of that? And to me, it seems like way more. If he was going to move away, it would be for financial reasons and because of his creation, his invention, and also Thomas Edison, because Edison was a fraud. Fratricide murder for money. In 1967, Jean Mitry proposed in Historia du Cinema that Le Prince was killed. Mitry notes that if Le Prince truly wanted to disappear, he could have done so at any time prior to that. Thus, he most likely never boarded the train in Dijon. He also wonders why his brother, who was the last person to have seen Le Prince alive, knew Le Prince was suicidal, didn't try to stop him, and why he didn't report Le Prince's mental state to the police before it was too late. I have heard this, they proposed this theory on BuzzFeed Unsolved. So, the brother was the last one to see him alive. Now, again, according to this, there's the theory prior, there's nothing to suggest that he was gay. But there is um, info to suggest that he was that he had mental issues. His mental state wasn't exactly sound, and that he was suicidal. The brother supposedly knew this and didn't report it. Well, why would he? Was Louis showing signs of a deteriorating mental state? Was he showing signs of wanting to kill himself? Most people who commit suicide don't show any signs of that. So This is a little misleading. You can't really, knock the brother for saying, like, well, why didn't he stop him? Well, Louie probably wasn't showing any signs of wanting to kill himself. So, suspected drowning. A photograph of a drowned man pulled from the CN in 1890, strongly resembling LaPrince, was discovered in 2003 during research in the Paris police archives. This led to the theory that he had failed to get his moving picture to work, had heavy debts, and thus chose to take his own life. However, it has been claimed that the body was too short to be LaPrince. So there you have it. A lot of theories. Not really a lot of theories, but we got one, two, three, four, right? Four theories. So we have he was assassinated, suicide, disappeared by order of the family, well, we'll say murdered slash assassinated, uh, suicide, disappearance by order of the family, and suspected drowning. The first one I'll get rid of is the disappearance ordered by the family. But I'm not gonna completely disregard the disappearance, but I probably will as I talk about it more. Let's start with the first one. Assassination. Do we think Thomas Edison had some part in the assassination of Louis LaPrince? It sounds absolutely absurd, but what we now know about Thomas Edison is probably, in regard, in my opinion, similar to what we now know about Christopher Columbus. We all, respected and praised Christopher Columbus, hence the reason we have Columbus Day. But now a lot of people are like, why are we celebrating Christopher Columbus? He committed genocide. True, but, you know, the holiday's already been put in place. We already knew what we thought we knew. You can't really change it. Sorry, folks. I feel like this could be similar in the instance of we all thought, Thomas Edison was a brilliant man because he invented this, that, this, and this. Come to find out, he just kind of stole other people's ideas and made them his own. Because Thomas Edison was a fraud. But could Thomas Edison have possibly had hired henchmen to murder Louis LaPrince? I wouldn't rule it out. As crazy and preposterous as that sounds, I would not rule it out whatsoever. We don't really know what Thomas Edison was like. We're kind of just now finding out over the last 30 plus years, right? I would say 20. So assassination by Thomas Edison, I'm not going to rule it out. Disappearance ordered by the family. No, I don't think this is sound. Do I think he possibly disappeared? Yes, but even if Edison doesn't kill him, I'm thinking that maybe Edison's men tell him to get out of town. But I feel like he would have too much pride. Any man who invents something has way too much pride. Like you'd have to be really down mentally to just be like, go away. Okay. Lord Edison is going to take your invention. He will be the creator of the motion picture film. Okay. Like that doesn't seem like I think if he disappeared, I do think he disappeared, but I don't think the family ordered him to disappear, and I don't think Edison's men told him to disappear. I think he disappeared because I think his mental state was probably a lot, on the low side, and I would say he probably came into financial trouble, and that's enough to make a man go into disappearance and maybe even off himself. Fratricide, murder for money. Was Was he murdered? Was he murdered by his brother? I can't rule this one out either, unfortunately. I really can't. But then again, because again, his brother was the last person to see him alive. I'm sure the brother was questioned very, substantially. And then the drowning one, way too much time's gone by. 2003, they found a body. Hey, this might be Louie LaPrince. Who? So I think murder by Edison, murder by his brother, or the number one theory that I'm going to go with is that he disappeared, he went to another place, and he committed suicide. But then again, a body's never really been found, has it? That's the big question here. Where's the body? If he killed himself, how come no one's found the body? If he was murdered, how come no one found the body? So I'm going to rank them as follows. Number one, I think he disappeared to a secluded place and he killed himself. Secluded in the sense of he went to a place where he knew nobody would find him and his skeletal remains were probably never found. Hence the reason a body's never been found. Second theory, his brother murdered him. Because again, his brother was the last person to see him alive. It makes sense. Also, I kind of want to know what the brother told police. Oh yeah, I saw him just before he boarded the train. We're just going off of this man's word. What was this guy's emotional state like when he was being told that his brother went missing and never boarded the train? We kind of need to know that, Third and final, but not completely out of the way, Thomas Edison had Louie LaPrince murdered. I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous and absurd, but again, you don't know the monster that was Thomas Edison back in the day. When Edison was alive, he was a dick. He stole people's inventions. He made them his own. Louie LaPrince was not the first person to take him to court. I assure you of that. If we wanted to go down the Edison rabbit hole, you'd probably find a lot of people taking him to court. And Edison, pretty much 9 times out of 10, though, winning the case, which just kind of makes you feel sick. Because look, we're giving this guy credit for shit he didn't invent. He just happened to find the loophole, and he just happened to find the patent where it's you didn't patent it, but I did. Therefore, it's my invention. I'm the father of it. I'm the creator of it. I'm the first inventor of it. But let this episode not be about Thomas Edison being a dick. Let this episode be about Louie LaPrince, the father and first of the moving picture that is cinema. The first moving picture film. What do you think happened to him? Do you think he disappeared? Do you think he was murdered by an assassin that was hired by Thomas Edison? Do you think his brother killed him? Do you think his family told him to go away because he was gay and they were ashamed? Do you think there was money issues involved? Or do you think he drowned? Do let me know in the comments below. And yeah. This has been Mystery Unsolved, the disappearance of Louie LaPrince. I do hope you enjoyed this episode, and do stay tuned for next week, where I will be back for an all-new episode that will be on the strange disappearance of the Jameson family. This is another one brought to you by BuzzFeed Unsolved, so thanks to Shane Bidet and Ryan Bagara for their great series, BuzzFeed Unsolved, in which I get a few episodes that I myself want to look into to investigate. For Mystery Unsolved, this is Justin Bienvenu signing off. Have a good one.